Hey, this is Sandy.
And Randy.
And we're here on AT Corner.
Being an athletic trainer comes with ups and downs, and we're here to showcase it all.
Join us as we share our world in sports medicine.
Welcome back to another episode of AT Corner. We have a very special Valentine story episode.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes, we are talking about dating.
As an athletic trainer, dating coaches.
Yes, we work with a lot of different people within an athletic department, so sometimes paths cross.
I mean, when you meet your person.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to be talking about, like Randy said, dating coaches, dating other athletic trainers, and then also at the end we're going to be talking about what people think about students dating. So I feel like there's a broad...
Each place has their own philosophy, or
right.
each preceptor kind of has their own philosophy.
But then also like a difference between observation students and actual athletic training students.
Yes, absolutely.
So anyway, let's jump into talking about dating coaches.
Yes, let's do it.
Do you have any stories before we kick it off?
When I was like a volunteer, like observation student, I actually dated a student coach.
Wait, really?
Yes.
I don't think I knew this.
Yes. It was very short. It was probably 2 months. But yeah. So I have some minor experience in this.
How is it working with him after?
It was at the end of the season, so we started dating at the end of the season, so that didn't really matter then.
It was like an assistant?
And it was like a student assistant.
Oh, okay.
And then after that, for like the spring season, It wasn't that awkward, I don't think.
What sport?
It was track.
Oh, of course. I should know that.
But yeah, no, that's my minor experience in this, and yeah.
Oh, I'm glad it didn't work out.
Yes, me too.
I already was dating you when I was dating you when I was an observation student, so
yes.
I did not date any coaches.
But you have had visiting coaches hit on you before.
Oh yeah, you're right. Oh, mostly basketball coaches, actually.
You're right. It is mostly basketball coaches.
Twice it's been a basketball coach.
It's the Blazer.
It must be.
It must be the Blazer.
I mean, what can I say?
Yeah, it's just bringing it.
Okay, you want to go into our first story?
Yes.
So Matty B says about dating a coach. Took me 3 months to agree since I didn't want it to end badly. He was the lacrosse coach, and I told our staff I wasn't working lacrosse unless needed. 1 year in, the athletic trainer who was working lacrosse left, and everyone voted for me to work since I knew the team more than any other athletic trainer. We were living together at this point. I worked with him for 3 years, and it was great. We tried not to talk about work at home, but it happened, of course, especially with COVID. We have had a very open line of communication, and some of the guys didn't even know we were dating 2 years in. 5 years together this December, and welcomed a baby girl.
Oh, that's exciting.
I handed lacrosse off since I can't travel, but wouldn't have it done any other way. Our close friends at work knew, most of the AT staff knew, but otherwise it was pretty easy. The hardest thing we dealt with is proper communication, making sure we communicated at work, just like any other work relationship. It's easy to get snappy or angry quicker with someone you are dating or are with. I had to ask myself if I would talk to another coach like that, but we figured it out. We even had a spring break trip and half the team was still in the dark.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Also, congrats.
Yes. But that is true. That does kind of bring up a good point. Like, how do you not talk about work at home?
That's hard.
Right? Like, that's got to be hard to separate that, especially when it's like the coach athletic trainer dynamic. Like, I feel like that would be difficult not having work come up at home.
Right.
Or home come up at work.
Also because of the different perspectives.
Oh, yeah.
Of where they're coming from.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, at least I was going to say, at least they're not really trying to decide on the same things, because I feel like sometimes with like two athletic trainers who work together, they have to decide on policies and stuff.
Yeah.
But they still have to agree on injury management.
Oh, definitely.
Or who can play.
Oh, definitely. And like at a certain, like, because like most times when you deal with a coach, like, yes, you'll have an interaction. Sometimes it doesn't go quite the way you want. Like the result may be the same, but the type of interaction that happened probably wasn't the same. And then you can be away from that coach and not deal with it. Like, but if you're dating that coach, like you're going to see him at home too.
Right.
So it's like, how does that not, like, if you didn't have a great interaction about a certain athlete, how does that not carry over to home? I feel like that's very difficult.
I think communication, like she said, was like really huge.
Oh, huge.
And we talk about that just in general in the profession anyway, but also I feel like this is going to be a recurring theme.
Oh, absolutely.
Also, I think it's really, I actually really like this one because she said it's easy to get snappy or angry quicker with someone you're dating or who you're with.
Yeah.
And I totally understand that. Like, that is so true. And to be able to separate that from work.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's a good point. Like, you have to go that extra mile to ask yourself, like, am I treating this person like I would any other coach? So, like, yeah, that, I mean, it does add another element of extra work you have to do. But like you said, if it's your person.
Mm-hmm. I wonder how, because we've never worked at the same place. We've worked at the same events.
Yes.
But we've never worked at the same place, even as students.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, you weren't a student at the same time I was anyway, so. I feel like I wonder how we would do because I feel like our relationship dynamic is a lot different than other people's.
Yeah.
Where I think the best way to explain it is like we just love out loud, and that you can't really do that at work.
No, yeah, exactly. It'd be weird. That's why I don't think we could.
I don't think we could either.
Yeah. I'd be weird.
This next one's anonymous. This person says, I was married to a college football coach. Before that, we dated while we were both students. We never used our work environment as a place to flirt or spend time together. See, like, that would be super hard.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know.
Because we're very flirty.
And we like to spend time together. That's so cheesy.
That was well, this is a Valentine's episode, so we're going to put a little extra cheese in this one probably.
Okay, here's where it would totally get hard for us. I very rarely was even around him when he was at practice and I was around. We just spent time together after practices or games. When we were married and he became a coach, it was the exact same. Only then I wasn't a student anymore. I really loved having my person understand my world as an athletic trainer, especially once I began working in the professional and elite levels.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. That's also a recurring theme is like understanding the demands. Even if you're not in the traditional setting or if you're not in a place that is as demanding, like
yes.
The demands of athletic training are different than just a normal job.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, it does kind of follow for like other healthcare professions. Hours do get crazy. Not quite to the same degree. Some of them compared to athletic training, especially in the traditional setting, just because athletics is a weird schedule. It just kind of does whatever it wants.
But also you have to, like, when you go to work, it's not just about the hours, but also like you have to be making decisions about people's health.
The energy investment you put into it.
Right. You also have to sometimes be the bearer of bad news, and some people don't take that as well as others.
It's a lot of bad news. Right? Like yes, obviously there's good news. We do say good news, but most of the time, anytime you talk to a coach, more than likely it's bad news. To them, it's bad news.
Yeah. I try to break it up so I'm not only bad news.
See, that's what I like. Try to have a conversation with them, ask how their day is. I try to be a person.
I also try to, this is not Valentine's Day, but I feel like I've said this before. I try to give them options. I feel like if the coaches feel like they're choosing, they feel like they're winning.
Yeah, that's true.
Even though both options are options that I want.
I guess that could be Valentine's Day. I mean, communication.
There you go.
Continuing with the theme.
I think the hardest that we've had working, well, we weren't working together, but when you were traveling all the time.
Yeah, that was tough. Yeah, traveling all the time is tough. When it's long durations and multiple.
Well, it was like 4 days a week.
4 days a
Every
week.
week.
Yeah. I really only had like 2 or 3 days
At
where
home.
I actually saw you.
But I was 2 hours away sometimes.
Yeah. It was weird.
Yeah. Let's not do that.
See,
again.
that's why we said we could not be around each other.
No. And I was talking to one of our friends about this because I think relationship dynamics are really interesting because I think we have our relationships like not like other people's.
Mm-hmm.
And some people actually, and there's nothing wrong with this. Like, I think that if you need this, like, that totally whatever works for you, some people have to schedule time away from each other. And I don't think we could do that.
Yeah, that's not our dynamic.
No. I think we
just can't get enough of each other.
I think that that's also why we can work together on this podcast and not like kill each other.
Yeah.
Do you want to read the next one?
Yes. So this one's by Zoe K. When I was a GA, I dated / am still dating my boyfriend who was a football GA. I ended up working with volleyball my second year, also due to AT staffing changes. But it really wasn't hard for either of us to maintain professionalism, just based off of our personalities and work ethic. Dating a coach can be challenging, but they also understand the demand of working in athletics, which can be rare in the dating world, which has come up before. In our last episode of dating that we talked about, it's always one of the challenges is just understanding athletics in general.
Mm-hmm.
Zoe continues with, making sure we took either a day or evening to make time for each other, and appreciating that time you have together is huge.
Also beyond that, knowing that, and I don't want to like perpetuate a stereotype, but knowing that athletic training a lot of times is a thankless job.
Yes.
Especially because we're giving all day.
Yes.
And so I feel like it's also hard for someone who's giving all day to go home and give all night. And I'm not saying you can't, but also like you need something to fill your cup beyond that.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that someone who doesn't understand that demand of the job, it would be really hard.
100%. And vice versa, you also understand the challenges of what the other person's going through. Like, it's kind of, now we're in those shoes of understanding, like, yes, we understand the demands of athletics, but we don't understand all the demands that a coach has to go through.
Right.
Even though I do give coaches a hard time, I do know their job is not easy. They definitely do have a lot of challenges throughout their day as well.
Well, they get a lot of them. You see how mad they get. Like
that cannot be good for the blood pressure.
Obviously, their job's hard. You can see it in their face. That vein popping out their forehead.
Oh yeah, like the opposing coach for our women's basketball game the other night.
Oh.
Man, she was not happy that they were
She
losing.
didn't even let them go into the locker room.
No, they screamed at them at the court. I heard a clipboard go flying during one of the timeouts.
Ooh.
Like, oh yeah.
Oh.
She was losing it.
All right, we have 2 more coaching ones, I think.
This next one's by Jessica J. about dating a coach, which, by the way, she says she did marry him. We do work together, but we were already dating before we moved to the school we work at. I mean, I work for the hospital, but I spend at least half of my time at the high school where he is the football and now track coach. When we're talking about injuries, it's pretty easy to keep things separate. We just talk about work in that moment. It helps that he respects my judgment 100%. That is huge.
Mm-hmm.
The high school is really just an extension of our family, though.
This is the best part.
One benefit of a small town. We bring our 2-year-old daughter to everything with us, and the kids and coaches adore her.
Isn't that so cute?
Yeah, that's awesome. Which I can't wait for when we have kids and do that. You know the athletes are all going to be amped. Amped.
Yeah, they will be.
I mean, think about it. We have built-in babysitters right there.
No.
No? You wouldn't trust some of your athletes to watch kiddos?
No. So this kind of reminds me of the the married couple at your school, the basketball coach
oh, yeah.
and one of the admins, who the admin comes to the games and she brings their 2 kids. And I wonder about their relationship dynamic too, because they work together, but she's...
And technically she would be his boss.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, we've wondered that too. Is like, just like, again, like separating that, like, how do you draw that line between, like, that's really hard to make sure the lines don't get blurred between work and home.
I think with coaches and athletic trainers, at least your colleagues.
Yes.
But I think it would be so tough if one of you is the boss at work.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
How do you not be the boss at home?
Because at some point your boss is going to do something that you just question that decision.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you not, like, take that home, and even not from like an aggressive standpoint, but just try to understand their decision more, and then just keep talking about it, and then someone can get alienated. Like, it's easy that these lines could get blurred.
I will say the benefit of having that relationship with your boss, no pun intended, is that you really do already have that solid foundation of communication. And so I think that level of communication is going to be different from a lot of boss to employee relationships.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And so, I mean, that could be a good thing.
Yeah, possibly.
And so sometimes, like, if my boss does something that I'm like, I don't even know where that came from, it might be harder for me to, like, ask about it, whereas someone who is actually dating them or married them.
Again, it goes back to communication.
And they could probably push it a little bit more.
Yeah. And setting boundaries, I'd say, too.
So this, actually, speaking of setting boundaries, this one's actually it's got a little bit of a negative connotation.
Okay.
But I thought it was good to have, like, the other side of the barrel.
Oh, absolutely.
So this one's anonymous.
I kind of have a story about dating, but it doesn't even contain me. The last school I worked at, my head AT started dating one of the coaches there, specifically a sport he worked. There were 2 of us on staff with 7 sports total going on at once. Thanks, COVID. But when they started dating, it was blatantly obvious that he favored her sport. I have always told myself to not date coaches that I work with because of that reason. Plus, if you break up, it might be awkward.
I'm going to interrupt really fast because it's so different at your job where you're going to be working indefinitely. It's not like you're a student at a rotation and, in like a couple months, a couple weeks, you're not going to be there anymore.
Oh, definitely.
You have to stick it out.
And yes, it might be awkward.
Yeah.
They continue with, I feel like I've heard all the time of people dating or hooking up with people they work with, but to actually experience seeing that from my own boss was just absurd and definitely affected his working relationship with other coaches and even athletes too. It became annoying because he would go out to lunch with her for an hour to an hour and a half every day while I was stuck working. The coach he dated would also constantly be in his office, so when we would have serious conversations, he would let her interrupt. No hate towards anyone else, obviously, where this isn't an issue, but experiencing the decline in someone's work ethic because of it was very frustrating to work with and work for. Yes, that is extremely frustrating because, now it affects everybody.
And I bet you, I can almost guarantee you the head AT had no idea, like, didn't see it.
Oh, probably not. Especially, like, if it's at, like, early dating phase, like, oh, for sure didn't see it.
No, not at all. And that's like, okay, do you know yourself well enough or do you have someone who you trust who will tell you that you're being a butt?
Oh, exactly. And also, this does bring up another wrinkle into, like, dating a coworker / coach is now there's always going to be some doubt in someone's mind that, like, oh, are they favoring that person because of this relationship? So now you've just added that extra wrinkle into how other people are perceiving the situation, which from maybe being like a supervisor standpoint could be a bad thing because now, any, employees that you're supervising are always going to have maybe some doubt like, oh, that person got this because of this.
Ooh.
So now it kind of just sprinkles some doubt into people's minds, which is something to consider before, diving in.
Yeah. So, I mean, luckily, I think I think this was our only like negative experience story.
Nice.
And so I feel like most of the stories people wanted to share were positive.
Well, we are a very positive podcast.
But I'm saying like it's not always like this, but it's also not always positive. And it's not always a good thing.
Exactly. And it's something to consider before. I mean, obviously, like we said, if it's your person, you know, of course, but there, you know, you got to think of all angles on what are the ramifications of this decision.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what Dr. K used to say, life's about choices.
I'm surprised it's taken you this long to fit that
into
an
me
episode.
Too. Me too. What are we at? 85? It's taken 85 episodes for Life's About Choices to come into this podcast.
Well, now we have it.
Shout out to Dr. K.
You want to switch over to athletic trainers, dating athletic trainers?
Hey, we know this.
I feel like we have a little bit more insight in
this. We can do this one.
So this first one's from Madalyn K. She said, I'm dating an AT and we're in different settings. I'm with 7th to 12th graders at the secondary school level and he does club and rec sports at the college level. Dating an AT perks. Can bounce ideas off each other, understand each other's schedules, can complain and understand complaints. We went to different schools, so we learned slightly different things and can help each other out. And we also can go to conferences together, which in my opinion
is awesome.
The best thing ever.
You know, not just like conferences, but like any
like learning
CEU.
labs,
yeah.
Like,
you have a built-in partner at all times.
Which, I mean, could be bad because you want to learn how to do it on different bodies. Like, I know how to do a Lockman so well on your knee. When I was learning how to do a Lockman, like, I could do it on your knee, but I couldn't do it on anyone else's knee.
Well, no, hold on. You got it on my knee. And I guarantee you, if you had to do a Lockman on a cross-country kid, you would be able to do it. But no.
But I work with football.
My knee is not anywhere compared to your offensive or defensive lineman. Maybe the kicker.
Exactly.
Maybe the kicker.
So yes, built-in partner.
Which
there's a star next to that.
But I mean, because come on, everyone who goes to a learning lab or a CEU session that has a lab component, there's always that awkward like, oh, who's my partner? I don't know this person.
Okay, I will say though, like, I can give you honest feedback if you're learning something and I'm like, no, dude, it's not flying. I can tell you that. Whereas like if there's someone random and they're like doing something, I might be like,
well, again, because you don't know like
how are they going to take this constructive criticism?
You know, like, and then you don't want to be that person that thinks they're perfect and constantly like, oh no, you need to do it this way, right? Like, right. I don't know, it makes it weird for everybody.
Okay, so there's not
built-in partner.
Not all pros. We've got some cons too. Get tired of talking about AT stuff.
That's false. How can anyone get tired of talking about AT stuff?
We put a bedtime on COVID.
Yes, we did. There was that time. We had to stop talking about COVID.
When we're both working 70 plus hours in preseason and don't have time for anything like cleaning the house, making dinner, a social life.
Yes, I feel that.
Thinking one of us is right over the other, mostly me.
I feel the second one.
The don't have time for anything.
Yes.
That's rough sometimes.
Yeah.
That is rough sometimes.
That is definitely a con of both being ATs who work in athletics.
Yeah. Especially a faraway job.
Yeah. When you add the commute into things too, that can make it really tough.
But my hours are doing pretty well. I say
they're pretty constant.
Yeah.
Like I have a general idea of when you're done.
Yeah.
And plus, sometimes you're done early.
Actually, in the spring lately, I've been getting done early.
Right? Isn't that awesome?
I know, that is awesome.
See? Athletics.
I'm kind of worried about the fall, but we'll see.
Athletics, it's a double-edged sword. There are the pros of stuff like that, and then they're like, you're just as likely to maybe get out early as you are to stay late.
You know what? No, I feel like it's more likely to stay late, but in the spring, maybe.
Yes.
Okay, so you can read this next one.
This next one's by Emily. Currently dating another athletic trainer. I'm a secondary school AT, and he works with a professional soccer academy team. And we are 20 hours apart, as I'm in Nashville and he's in Massachusetts. It's tough. We have to find mornings off to FaceTime and talk anything but work. call on late car rides home, and remind each other that we need to talk non-work things. There are also a ton of benefits, though. We get each other's long hours, but also can hold each other accountable if we are working too much. We can bounce ideas off each other, but also understand that we are in different settings. Different settings has actually saved us, I think.
I think this is huge.
It's certainly been interesting to say the least. It's both of our first jobs out of grad school, so big adjustment on top of keeping up with our relationship has been tough, but we are getting through it.
So I'm gonna be honest. My mom always told me that I was gonna marry an athletic trainer, and I
always wanted to end up with an athletic trainer.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
No, thank you.
So I was always like, no, there's no way, because I am too competitive, and like I couldn't make that work, which obviously I did. But I think the reason, and we aren't in different settings. Well, we kind of are. He's in 4-year college and I'm in 2-year college.
It's different and similar at the same time.
Exactly. Whereas I think if we were the same age, if we went to the same school, if we had the same treatment philosophies, if we were kind of like at the same level, I think it would be so much tougher. And if same setting, I don't know if I said that, but I think that competitiveness would override like some of the benefits.
Yeah.
Whereas
like you are competitive.
I don't feel like I'm trying to like outdo you because I can't.
Okay. Okay.
But I think that that's really like really huge. Like different settings.
Yeah.
Not for everyone, but like.
Well, it's nice because it gives different perspective.
Yeah, because you still have the background to do the same. You have the same things.
Yeah.
But it's not like we always talk about, go to work as an athletic trainer, come home to an athletic trainer, talk about athletic training.
Well, and it also helps because, like you said, like different philosophies. Like we do have different philosophies as clinicians, and that's actually been really helpful because then I can see it it's easier for me to look at things in a different perspective now because I've learned from you.
Aww.
So that's another pro. Along the lines of kind of bouncing ideas off each other. If you guys have different clinical philosophies, it helps expand how you look at things. Because I know I've felt that, like how, especially when I interact with coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Because Sandra knows my thoughts on coaches. And I have gotten better because of her.
I agree.
Yes.
Okay, this next one's by Kimberly B. I met my significant other in grad school. We were both GAs working at different clinical sites. He had a crazy schedule working with an SEC football team.
Oh, what schedule? What? Don't say schedule. That's his life. Come on.
I had high school. We were able to spend evenings together after work was done, and since we were both very independent and easygoing, we never felt stressed about seeing each other, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
We understand the demands of our profession and cherish the moments, even small moments, that we get together. We are now fortunate to work at the same D3 college and live together about 30 minutes away. And this is why I like the story. Well, not because it's bad for the environment. It may be bad for the environment, but we don't get to carpool. So we get our time apart every day, and our work schedules are a little different because we work with different teams. Whoever gets home first makes dinner for the other. We allow ourselves an hour to talk about work when we get home, to vent and go over crazy injuries and bounce ideas after that. But after that, no talking about work, and it's working well so far.
Nice, that's awesome.
Which I think, honestly, the time apart when you work together and live together, I know I said this like the opposite earlier, but I think it sounds like it's essential.
Yeah.
Because like you need a little me time.
No, yeah, definitely, for sure. And especially as both being ATs, because you still want to, get other ideas from other ATs and like interact with ATs that are not your significant other to also get their input as well.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that whoever gets home first cooks dinner.
I know. That really works out.
Like, I think, especially as ATs, I feel like that's kind of what needs to happen just because schedules are crazy and everyone's schedules change. So having like that old philosophy where like maybe one person cooks, like, oh, mom cooks or dad cooks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens when, dad's running late, and then people get hangry. Hangry's not good. So I think that that does help, spread the stress around instead of just one person having to do that and everyone's relying on that person to get that done. Everyone's able to help each other out and it helps kind of share that load.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think the benefit of if you're working together and if you don't carpool, then you can have more independence in your time.
Yes.
Because you won't have to feel like you're stuck at work if the other person's not done yet.
Yes.
And I feel like even in different settings, like when I was working at the high school and you were working at the D1, like even when we used to carpool back then, I would still have to, most of the time you were working longer hours than I was.
Oh yeah.
And so I would still have to like figure out what to do with my time, and I couldn't go home.
Yeah. And like, yeah, you can be productive at that time, but at a certain point you just want to go home.
Right.
So I feel that.
I know. When's going to be time for the laundry?
Yeah, exactly. All right, this next one's by Anonymous. My fiance and I are both athletic trainers at the same university. I actually worked there from 2016 to 2018 as a grad assistant, and he was there from 2018 to 2020 as a grad assistant. We met in 2020 when I came back to town for our longtime team physician's retirement party.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. Look at that. Retirement parties bringing people together. There was an instant connection between the two of us. And a few months later, I got asked to come back to work for the university as a full-time employee. Our connection picked right back up where we left off. I was completely distraught because I have always been so committed to not having relationships at work. I talked to my boss about it and explained that I had strong feelings, but would end it right away if it would jeopardize my career. Luckily, my boss was very supportive and happy for both of us. 2 years later, the head coach that we worked with announced to the football team that we had gotten engaged over the bye weekend. Everyone was shocked because no one knew we were dating. Even assistant coaches, which, by the way, assistant coaches know everything. I am so grateful that I followed my heart, was upfront and honest with my boss, and was able to remain professional. Now I get to work with my best friend, and I wouldn't want it any other way. See, if it's your person, it's your person.
Right. So I think, too, as a couple, and this is different for everyone, you have to decide what comes first. Person or profession.
Yes.
Because if you aren't on the same page on your priorities, I think that could be a really tough spot.
Absolutely.
And there's not one right answer over the other, but I think that is like essential to at least align priorities.
Absolutely. And also, again, goes back to our theme, communication.
Mm-hmm. I also think that this is, this kind of reminds me of like when people say, what if? And then someone says, what if it is better than you could have imagined?
Yeah.
I feel like this is like, oh, she was so distraught about
jeopardizing, their career.
Exactly. And what if it happened better than she could have imagined?
Like it did.
Mm-hmm. And I think the whole boss being supportive is a big thing.
Yeah, that definitely helps. And that's what I was going at when I was talking about communication, because you should get other people's inputs, especially your workplace input as well.
Yeah. Well, otherwise you might end up like that head AT who's dating.
Oh, yeah. Oof. It could go on the negative.
Don't be that person.
Yeah, don't be that guy.
Okay, here's another one by Kara S. I'm married to an athletic trainer. Been together since freshman year, second semester AT classes.
Nice.
While I was in graduate school with an assistantship and he had an internship, we had to prioritize time together. I traveled a lot and he didn't. So we would prioritize days off together, even if it was just a movie at home and homework. But we would always like to have dinner together, even when it was 1 a.m. We are now both in the secondary setting, and we both love working the same hours because we have the same time off generally. He would like to transition eventually whenever we try to have a family, but right now we are loving doing the same thing together. We knew early on from our mentors that the job setting is hard romantically, and many people in our life were married to healthcare workers, athletic trainers, or people who are really darn understanding.
Really understanding.
To be fair, we had a forbidden love. Jokes, but kind of serious. Our program director, who we love, banned relationships between students due to some relationships that crossed lines. It was the best kept secret until senior year when we got engaged at our senior athletic training banquet. All of my class cohort knew, but not everyone else did. It took some time for them to find out or be let into the secret. Because we were student athletes as well, we were student athletic trainers for each other's sports. He was mine during sophomore year, volleyball for me, and I was his senior year, soccer for him. It wasn't until my senior year that I brought it up to my preceptor that I wanted to stay clear of liability because it would be a conflict of interest. I think our one preceptor who we both loved knew since our junior year, but we also told her because we wanted to be real. Generally, we kept it secret and never did group projects after we started dating.
Oh, nice. I love in a lot of these stories I love hearing about the support from like outside. Like their preceptor or like I wonder how like the program director reacted.
I know.
I'm very intrigued. Especially finding out at the end. Like their senior year banquet. I'm interested.
I think it's kind of funny how they're like, oh, like some people were let into the secret, like one by one. And like who knew and who didn't. It's kind of like
exactly.
When we secretly eloped. And,
oh goodness, yeah, that was a mess.
And
that was a mess.
I changed my name, my new last name, but I didn't change it because I was working like in Orange County and then in San Diego County, and those are like 2 hours away. And so in Orange County, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't change anything, and I wasn't married. But in San Diego County, I was married. I had a new last name.
Well, and also we were accounting for like we were still having a wedding in 2020, so we didn't want we wanted it to still kind of be special for like older family members, so we didn't want to just say like, oh, we eloped.
Didn't tell. We only told like our parents.
Yeah, so like it was a whole thing. I don't know why we did that. We should just kept it. We should just made the switch.
Well, at the time, I guess my boss at the time, Lorena, like confronted me, and she walked up to me one day and she goes, "I need to know, what the heck is your last name? Where do you live? Do you work for me or do you work somewhere else?" Like she had like this list of like, what is this conflicting information I'm getting?
It was an interesting time. Right before COVID, it was an interesting time.
Okay, so speaking of, they were dating while they were students.
Yes.
So speaking of students and dating.
Yes.
I think before we talk about this, I want to put out a difference between like an observation student and an athletic training student.
That's different as well.
Because, okay, so where I work at the community college, I have an athletic training student who's actually like in a master's program. And then I also have a bunch of the community college students who are like either in my class or if they've taken my class.
Yeah.
And they are trying to get observation hours so then they can go on to a bachelor's and a master's program.
Yeah.
Those observation students are not athletic training students. They are not doing patient care.
Yeah.
They are the peers of the athletes.
Yes, same age. They probably have the same classes together.
Whereas, like, the athletic training student is a master's student. He's doing patient care under my supervision, obviously.
Yeah.
But, those two are very different.
Very different.
So I think where I stand on this is a lot, I base that a lot on that.
Oh, definitely. And, looking back at, when I was, a volunteer student, observation student kind of thing, using that experience and then where I'm at now, I don't know. I still don't like it. I just, I don't think, I think it's really hard for someone to go in and just like, for like students, especially the observation students, to just go in and be like, oh yeah, I'm banning relationships. I mean, that's really hard to say to someone who's the same age as the athletes. And like I said, who are going to be in the same class. Like they're literally living the same experience
Right.
of college. So to go in there and tell someone like, oh yeah, you can't date that person, I think that's just really hard. I would highly recommend against it just because it does leave some doubt into some people's mind about like how you are interacting with certain people, how you interact with a certain team. So that's something to consider. But like we said, like, hey, if it's your person, it's your person. And if it is that person, you're going to find a way to make it work that you're still going to be an effective professional.
I told my observation student, not my AT student. My AT student, that's not allowed.
Yes.
But for my observation students, I said, if I know about it, you're doing it wrong. Like, it's not allowed.
Yes, exactly.
I don't want to know about it. I shouldn't know about it.
Exactly. Well, and, you know, like you said, there is a lot of emphasis, too, on the AT students because your next step is you're going to be certified.
Mm-hmm.
And like Sandra was saying, like, you do have a little bit higher responsibility for these student athletes because you do provide some patient care, obviously under the supervision, but you are still there to be a healthcare professional for them. So it's really not that much different than an AT dating a student athlete. So, and that can cross a lot of lines. So that's why I think that emphasis against the actual AT students, you know, it's very important. And I think, you know, as long as everyone knows that rule and keeping that professionalism, it's important.
So we actually put this up on our Instagram story. So I'm going to go through some of the responses and share them anonymously. So a lot of people did say, I don't want to be able to tell that they're dating an athlete. For athletic training students, they say, my athletic training students can't date athletes they can date athletes, but they can't cover that sport. Which, I mean, I can kind of see that side of the coin. It's like, okay, well, like, if you have no chance of being their provider, then...
Yeah. It does make it tough.
Right. They can't actively start dating during that sports season. If it happens after season or summer, that's fine. If it happens before, then, you know, out of your control. If you're helping me, no dating in the season, athletes. If you do, don't let me find out. Highly recommended against it. If it does happen, I shouldn't be able to tell, or they aren't scheduled to cover that sport. Don't talk about drama in my ATR.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good rule.
Yeah, I feel like most of the time this person says not current athletes. If athlete of interest season is done and there's no chance to be the provider again, thumbs up. Which I feel like that's a general consensus.
Yeah, it adds, again, another wrinkle that now people have to consider different things. It's a lot.
One of my preceptors actually said, be friendly, but don't be friends. Or be careful about being friends.
Yes, I agree.
I mean,
I love my kiddos. But I don't want to hang out with them. No.
Well, now there's like a significant age difference between you two.
Yeah, no,
where it's like, when you're a student, it's...
No, even then. As an athletic training student, like, I love the kiddos. I don't need to hang out with them.
I feel like as an observation student, I was friends with the athletes because I was in all their classes and stuff.
Yeah. Well, and see, again, it goes back. You guys are the same age, like same part of life.
Mm-hmm. But as a master's student, and I mean, granted, maybe it's because I was a master's student, but like, it really changed for me that,
100%.
Like that boundary.
100%.
And I also wasn't in their classes, so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We have one more story, and this one's from our MVP, Nicolette.
MVP!
You want to read it?
So Nicolette says, I also was dating one of the soccer players before I started my observation hours. So mine is kind of personal in regards to the same way the head AT thinks. She basically says as long as you keep it professional, you can have a personal relationship with the athlete. I think it's pretty unrealistic to ask a student who they go to school with, go to parties with, and see each other around to not have a personal relationship with an athlete, dating or not. I think as long as you guys are completely professional within the clinic and respectful and responsible, if it doesn't work out, dating is okay for students.
And that's also partially, a big part of it, knowing yourself. Because you have to assume it's not going to work out. You have to play out that scenario in your head. You can't just hope that the best happens.
Again, life's about choices. And you have to, like you said, you have to consider, okay, what is the negative ramifications of what's going to happen? Just like from the standpoint of like, yes, like obviously you don't want your AT students dating athletes. That's, again, you're trying to prepare this person to be a certified athletic trainer because that's literally their next step. So you really want to emphasize that this is important. You can't really do this as a certified. And for the observation students, like, even if you try and ban it from them, like, I really don't think it's going to be highly successful. So you do have to realize it's probably going to happen. So what's your next step? So I think setting that boundary of like, look, if you're going to do that, here's what I can't know.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be professional. You basically have to make it seem like there's nothing between you two, like in that regard.
Right. That's it. That's all we got.
Happy Valentine's Day. I feel like this is better than a box of chocolates.
Well, box of chocolates wouldn't agree with me. So
exactly. So you see, this works out.
With you.
All right. See, look at this.
So, I know you guys might have been expecting part 2 of our technical foul episode. That's actually going to be our next story episode. So if you guys don't know what that is, last story episode, we did stories on like dealing with refs and game conflicts and getting kicked off the sideline and stuff like that. So we have more exciting stories coming out for our next story episode. But today was Valentine's Day, so we had to make a special episode.
Oh, had to. We had to be cheesy and make a Valentine's dating episode.
We had to be cheesy. Every other episode, if you guys are new, is education or stories. This one was a story episode, so next week we are going back to our education. And if you are not in our Facebook group yet, make sure to join facebook.com/group/AT Corner Podcast. This is where you can share your stories, where you can answer a question of the week, you can network with other professionals, you can ask questions. Just a fun place.
Yeah.
You got anything else, Randy?
Nope, that was perfect. Thank you for helping us showcase athletic training behind the tape. Bye.